Steve Moran here with Senior Housing Forum, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Senior Housing Forum podcast. Our goal with each one of these podcasts is to inspire you to tell great stories and sometimes to challenge your existing thinking. Today, well, I'm going to actually back up for a second. So one of the things I'm working on here at Senior Housing Forum is to really get a better, more complete picture of who the operators are out there in the industry. And so I'm spending a lot of time in LinkedIn and working in my CRM and looking at my database. And over the last few weeks, I've had this, it's really been fun because I've discovered some companies that were really significant and seem to be doing some cool things where I had no idea, I'd never heard of them before. And so today's podcast is one of those. And I am talking to Kelly Shear. Did I do that right?
You did.
And she is with something called the Blossom Collection that I'll bet you haven't heard of either. So Kelly, let's actually start and talk a little bit about your background and then go into what the Blossom Collection is.
Sure. Well, my background actually started in acute care in teaching hospitals downtown Detroit. I was with the Detroit Medical Center for over 10 years, doing everything from public relations to strategic planning to marketing and some executive management as well. And when I left there, I went to Trinity Health, where I spent about 9 years doing everything from rebranding the company to mergers and acquisitions. And at the end of my tenure there, was operating the large portfolio of their senior housing. So my background is varied, but it allows me the creativity to do what I'm doing now at the Blossom Collection, which is a unique portfolio of what we would call active luxury living for those 55 and bolder, with a B, on purpose, because we feel that getting old isn't actually getting old, it's actually getting bold, and that the best years of one's life may actually be 55 and up. So the Blossom Collection is designed specifically to cater to that population, those 55 and bolder, and it is not a traditional independent living site, but it is a portfolio of active luxury, independent living, assisted living, and memory care. We also have a renewal and wellness option, which is about a private duty healthcare partnership for those who want to stay in their Blossom home and get better and stay right there and heal at home.
So I want to back up to one thing you said. So you're in what city?
We are in Southeast Michigan, suburbs of Detroit.
Detroit's this terrible place where nobody does anything anymore, though, right?
Right.
So
Actually,
tell
no.
me about that. I want to hear why Detroit.
Yes, let me tell you about Detroit. First of all, Detroit has a fantastic demographic of those 55 and bolder. It has the recently retired, those still working, those dabbling in things, entrepreneurs. Detroit actually is the city of makers, right? We make cars, we manufacture things, but the people in the Blossom Collection, the people in Southeast Michigan, those 55 and bolder, truly are the pioneers. These are the gentlemen and ladies who ran the auto companies, ran the auto supplying companies, made very good money for their companies. They are the pioneers and the tycoons, frankly, of what made America fantastic back in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. They're now stepping into their retirement years. They want an active lifestyle. They want to be engaged. It is a fantastic demographic. The other thing is Detroit is coming back, as you see. We should really be called Phoenix. I know it's reserved for Arizona, but we are eternally coming up from the ashes and the flames. It's a wonderful time to be in Michigan and to be in Metro Detroit for sure.
Cool. So you have one building that's community that's under construction now?
Right. That's right. Our flagship, Blossom Ridge, is on 44 acres. It's a beautiful spot in North Oakland County, and it has 189 units, 100 apartment suites, 20 of those are assisted living, and then we have 89 other village homes, which are what we call single entry homes. They're ranches and cottages, and we have duets as well. So we have 44 acres with 189 units. We also have a clubhouse on site. We have a building full of amenities. The Blossom Collections platform is an amenity-rich living experience, and I know we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Great. And so you're opening when?
Well, Blossom Ridge will be open at the end of 2018. We will start taking occupants first quarter, probably the beginning of February, and I'll tell you, we're already almost halfway reserved with our residents who've already bought into their site at Blossom Ridge.
Terrific. And average age for entry?
Right. So what we know about the industry, right? Average age for independent living, rather, when I was at Trinity was 88 years young. What we're seeing at Blossom is about 72. So even if that 88 was a little old, we're still hitting this age spectrum quite a bit younger. What we're finding is that people, what they're saying is, well, why not do it now? And they're not coming up with good reasons, frankly, to not do this kind of a move right now.
So when they move in because why? What are they telling you in terms of what their reason for saying we're going to do this now rather than wait until we're old?
Right. Well, I think we do have a portion of the population, of course, who have had some sort of a cataclysmic event, right? Typically, though, it's not with themselves. It's usually family. So my brother had a stroke, or I just recently went through this with my mom 10 years ago, et cetera, et cetera. So to recognize that being on a campus like this might be a good thing for them. But I will tell you what happens is we have one woman or a couple or a man who moves in and tells all of his or her neighbors about it, and then all of a sudden they're all moving in. We have whole neighborhoods moving in from their single family homes out here in the suburbs to Blossom Ridge. So what they're saying to us is, now is the time. I don't want the burden, frankly, of a mortgage, of a condo, of all this space. They're hearing things. They want to do this beforehand. They're trying to be preemptive.
So it's all rental?
It is. Blossom Collection is a lease-only opportunity. That's right.
So even I forget what you call them, sort of the independent
right.
properties are lease-only.
That's right. Our village properties.
So is this real high-end? This is luxury, or who's your target audience?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would tell you it absolutely is high-end and very luxury, but I want to make sure everyone knows we're 10% below market right now. So we have what we call attainable luxury. We don't use the word affordable for lots of reasons, because everyone can afford things that they can or can't afford, right? We all make choices. So what we're doing is putting ourselves right at the market or just below. We're about 10% below our competition right now, but we have the finest finishes. We have the finest amenities. We have the best in brand in our partners across the board.
So yesterday, or the day before when we were talking, we were getting ready for this this interview, this podcast today. You talked a little bit about the background of the Blossom Collection, because it's kind of, you just sort of showed up out of nowhere, right?
Right. We did. Well, actually, it's funny. The Blossom Collection sort of popped up, if you will, or it was blooming, but it comes from a foundation of home builders, luxury home builders in the Mosheri family. The Mosheri family has been building luxury homes, multifamily homes, and frankly, modular homes for the last 60 years. So this family is no stranger to wonderful, opulently built homes. What they decided to do was step into the senior living space, frankly, because their clients were getting older. And what they were saying is, what are we going to do now? What happens now? And so they wanted to serve the clients that they have been serving for the last 60 years. The wonderful thing about the Mosheri legacy is, especially now with the Blossom Collection, it truly is a home for every age and stage of one's life, from the very beginning to the end. And so that's really what they designed to do, and they wanted to do it in the Mosheri way. And that was to create wonderful, luxury, high-end living environments for those 55 and up.
And so do you have other projects, other communities on the drawing boards besides this one?
We do. This is our flagship, but currently there are five entitled sites, all in the Southeast Michigan area. They will be an assisted living and memory care community just a mile up the road from Blossom Ridge. We have another independent living community on the books, and 3 more as well that will start. One's within a 300-acre golf course. So again, in keeping with that luxury, highly amenitized living. So
in terms of looking at, let me see, where do I want to go with this first? I'm gonna let's talk a little bit more about. I'm probably a little bit young to move in, but I'm getting actually pretty close, right? So what if I were going to be moving in, what should I expect it to be like once I get into the community? Because I mean, you've talked sort of generally about what the amenities, but my sense is that there must be more to it than that, as for people who are at 76 or younger, to make this decision, which is very unusual. So.
Right. Well, what we pride ourselves on is that it is not the same experience every day, because honestly, Steve, when I get up in the morning, I decide then what I want to wear, what I want to eat, what I want to do for the day. So what happens in independent living in traditionally is that the spontaneity is removed from one's life because they move into senior living. That's not the case at Blossom. And so what I would tell you, the first tenet is spontaneity. And so what we strive to do is be available for your every whim at any moment, because of course, that's what real life is. That's what happens. And so just because you're 55, 76, 92, none of that stops, nor should it. So our philosophy is that we are ready for you. So we have restaurants. We don't have a dining provider, we have restaurants. Now what that means is you come in as you would any other time, order off the menu at our restaurant, sit in our bar, have a little pub grub if you like. We have a wood fire oven, so if you like a calzone or a fire pizza, we can do that too. Anything you'd want, carry out, all those things, all of those options are for you, as they would have been any other time of your life in your single family home 5 years ago, 10 years ago. All of those things are available to you. So again, spontaneity. Now, with our activities, we don't call them activities, right? So we have an art studio. Well, in our art studio, you can throw a pot on our pottery wheel, fire it right off in the kiln, paint it the next day. You don't have to wait for someone to cut, you can do those things. We have an art studio, we'll have an art gallery. We will show resident art, but we'll also have the Detroit Institute of Art one day come in, show their art. We'll have juried shows, etc. And so again, it truly is about the order of the day and that spontaneity. What's most important, I think, about, and what's missing, frankly, from independent living is the organic nature of the current community. So we think old people like to play bingo, right? Okay, well, some do, and some young people like to play bingo, but that doesn't mean that we set up a bingo room and all the time all we do is bingo, bingo, bingo. That's not going to work. We may have a group of people who love to play mahjong. That may be what we do, and we may be crazy mahjong players for 18 months. And then someone comes in and introduces our community to pickleball, right? We've got a pickleball court. Of course, we're available to do that. Then we get into this, right? It moves as our lives move. So it needs to be organic, and it needs to move with the community. Now, that doesn't mean that if you love mahjong and we're crazy rabid about pickleball, that you can't do both. What it is it's available for our residents to pick up and do. What we'd like to see, and the reason why we've called it Blossom Collection, is we truly believe that those 55 and bolder live their lives in full bloom. So what we want, what we expect, and what success looks like for us is our residents picking up new habits, learning new things, creating new opportunities. So they may never have played pickleball. Now's the time to do that. They have every opportunity and every inclination and a whole bunch of fun people doing it as well. That's when we're more likely to try new things. So that's what we're really attempting to do with all of our programming. Everything that you could ever want, the comfortable stuff and the stuff on the edge as well.
So I really liked hearing that. I woke up early this morning and was reading. Actually, I sort of followed a rabbit trail, but ended up at a long slide deck with about 300 slides on the internet from today going forward. And one of the slides in there that I really found fascinating, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, but I actually clipped a copy of it, talks about how important lifelong learning is becoming for people. And this was more in the context of older workers and retraining and looking at those kinds of things. But the thought that hit me was that perhaps that's the key to really expanding senior living, and the appeal of senior living is to really focus on this lifelong learning. And so, maybe it's pickleball, or maybe it's mahjong, or maybe it's how to sculpt, or to write a great novel or to go out and
Right.
change the world, right? So
Right.
I really like
Yes.
that a lot.
Yes.
But,
Well, and there are no, and so let's not be prescriptive about it, right? Our philosophy at Blossom Collection is that we know better, so we ought to do better. But that doesn't mean we know what you want or what you like.
right.
And what you want, what you like 5 years ago, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you like too. So we embrace the discovery of it, and we embrace the organic nature of it truly, so that we can take that journey. And it's our job really to say, what is it that you'd love to experience today? And so what I would tell you is, not only do you want to write your own book, let's talk about space travel, right? Let's have the Richard Bransons of the world come to our community and tell these people what this is like. Many of these people were the ones who pioneered the automobile. So now, who better to talk to, in my mind, about space travel than the people who pioneered travel as we know it currently, right? So this is that kind of thing where there is no idea too big. There is no concept too young. There isn't any of those things. We have a tech center, for instance. We'll have a genius bar as well. So what I like to say is, okay, if you're having problems with your phone or your technology, give them to the geniuses, right, in their skinny little ties, and we'll help you out. But here's what's really going to happen. And here's what we know about our residents and about those 55 in Boulder. They're the real geniuses. And the learning is not one way, right? It's both ways. And that's the genius of it, because, of course, what we know is our residents learn and experience and are so engaged when they're interacting with younger people. But if we can open our younger people to the wisdom that our residents have, that, I think, that just might be the solution to so many things in the world, right?
Yeah, Kelly, this is so cool. So the last question I have for you is this: as you've gone through this process of, actually, I have two questions. So you've gone through this process of developing this. What lessons have you learned? What have you learned along the way? And as you talk to prospects and in development process or any of those things?
Right. Well, I think part of this is aging is a crescendo. It's not a decline, and we need to flip the script on that. So in order, we use words like dignity, but the reality is that there is no reason that you can't have the last 20 years of your life, or 30 or whatever, 50, be in luxury. These are folks who have the resources, they have the time, they have the inclination. Why shouldn't we create amazing luxury experiences where the world is their oyster? They deserve this. And so the question really for me is, why can't we do that? Why wouldn't they want to have Richard Branson come in and talk about space travel? Why not? So when people say, well, yeah, but they're old, and I'll say that's exactly why we should do this. And so I will tell you, though, that's a hill that is every single day an uphill climb, but it's worth it. And I think that's what I've learned, is that when you're truly creating something unique, and your answer is why not? Yes, we can always do that. Our philosophy here is the answer is always yes, just a matter of how. And so I think we continue to learn that lesson over and over and over again. And I think unless you question that, you'll never get it. You just never get it. Everything from the bricks and sticks to the programming.
Great. So you really answered the second question I was going to ask is sort of what advice would you give, but you've already sort of finished that up. And so I appreciate that. Kelly, this has been a great interview. I appreciate getting to talk to you, and can hardly wait to get it out for other senior living folks to listen to. So I want to thank everybody for listening to this podcast. This has been enlightening. Again, the goal is to really do interviews and talk about things that will help you be a better leader and professional in the industry, look at what people are doing that maybe hasn't been done before, or looking at it in different ways. If you have a great idea and you think you'd like to be on the podcast with us, we'd love to hear from you. Again, my name's Steve Moran, and it is SMORAN at seniorhousingforum.net. Go out and change the world.